Hey, welcome to San Francisco Bay Area HDI and HDI local chapters June event. Thanks for coming. Today's event is a career pivot, navigating a career in tech, which we all, I think, have, everybody's done at least a small pivot. I don't know anybody that hasn't done at least a small pivot. It's hardly a straight line, which is what I tell my students. I'm Terry Oropeza, and I'm the president of the San Francisco Bay Area chapter. I am a retired IT manager, and now I teach IT at Cabrillo College in Aptos, Santa Cruz, California. I've been involved in HDI for a long time, since the beginning of my career, and back in 2001 as a help desk manager, and prior to that as other various roles in IT service and support. So we have a few announcements before we get started. One is HDI Local Chapters is a partner with HDI Informa Tech, who is a provider of content, certifications, training, and conferences. So we just actually had a conference in Las Vegas a couple weeks ago, which some of us attended. It was great, so good to see people. And the upcoming conference is Service Management World in November. HDI local chapter members do get a $150 discount off of conferences, of which they have two. And since the local chapter membership costs $149 and the discount is $150, that's a dollar gain, right? But there's a lot of other benefits to belonging to a local chapter like the San Francisco Bay Area. And the biggest one, I think, is, for me, it's always been the resource of people, the people that I know that I can call upon. Now I call upon them to be guest speakers in my classes, but when I was an IT manager, often called upon people that I've met through HDI about, how do you solve this problem, or we're doing this, you already did it, tell me how you did it, and that helps. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. We all think we're a unique snowflake, but really our issues are very similar, and the solutions are often have a similar baseline as well. So HDI Service Management World coming up, you do get a discount. And also if you are looking at training or have an opportunity for training at your company, you do also get a 5% discount on HDI training, which is excellent. Actually, yesterday on HDI Local Chapters live stream, Randy Solea, who is a faculty, he was on our live stream talking about certifications. It was a good show. And I will be posting that to social media later today. Training courses, and we would love for you, if you're in the San Francisco Bay Area, to get involved with us specifically. We have a few of our board members on the call here today. Myself, I'm president. Larry Motzenbacher, who is our VP of Communications. Sally Baker from UC Berkeley, who is on our leadership team, is going to be helping to lead our awards program this year. Christine Vo and Jason, I don't know if Jason's on here yet, Jason Bergato. Christine's from Robert Half and Jason is from Box, who are the co-VP of programs. Who am I missing, Larry or Sally? Did I get everybody that's on the call?
I think so.
Yeah. So we as who'd I miss? I think I got everybody. So the HDI local chapter, nobody. I missed nobody. I always miss nobody. That's a very important person. Nobody. HDI local chapters. We meet as a group every month. We plan these events. We help to really pull the local San Francisco Bay Area community together for the benefit of all of us. So for networking, fun, and learning. Fun most important to me. So looking ahead for us, we're working on at least one or two social events in the summer, so stay tuned. We have a couple of vendors who have indicated that they are willing to pull out their credit card and buy us some drinks. So we're going to take advantage of that. Also in the fall, as I mentioned earlier, we hope to have our first in-person event. And then there are lots of events throughout the country of other local chapters. And on our website, you can see all those local events on the calendar. There's a virtual community as well for any people who don't live close to a local chapter to participate in their events. That virtual community has a meeting every month, which is actually this week on Tuesday. So the next virtual community event is July the 12th, and they're going to be having a speaker from the FBI talking about cybersecurity. The virtual events, they try to make them very interactive. Nobody wants to sit on a Zoom for an hour without having a chance to have some fun. So with that, I am going to introduce our panel and hand it over to Glenn Cruz from UC Berkeley, who's going to be facilitating the panel. So today we have a panel of 5 folks who we asked to join us because they all have a career pivot story and they're all a little bit unique from each other. And we asked Glenn Cruz from UC Berkeley if he could help facilitate it, because this is a topic that Glenn finds near and dear to his heart, the managing and mentoring of people, which he's already spoken on a couple times at conferences. So Glenn, I'm going to hand it to you.
Thanks, Terry. So hi, everyone. I'm Glenn Cruz. I'm with UC Berkeley. I'm one of the managers there, manage, IT stuff. So the whole campus, just like Sally. And Sally and I are good manager buddies. And Chris Beltran's on the line too, on this Zoom call too. So yeah, so that's me in a nutshell. And I just want to do some housekeeping first. So housekeeping, if everyone could be on mute, that'd be great. And unless you're, except for the panel people, of course. And then second thing is, if you have a question or comment, please put in a chat or use the reaction button to raise your hand. That would be great. And someone, I guess Terry or Sally or Christina, will recognize them and they'll, say, hey, you have a question. So yeah. Other than that, that's pretty much about housekeeping. So let's get right to it. So let's introduce our panel today. And our panel, I will start off with a few other people. Well, I'll just go down the list. So list on here on today's program is Michael. And then Michael, once you do your little introduction, you get 1 minute to do your introduction about yourself. And then you could pick the next person after that. How about that?
Actually, Glenn, I'm going to pause you for 1 second because we do have also a special guest today, which is Kelsey from Opportunity at Work, who helped us. So they are one of the various workforce programs in the San Francisco Bay Area that are amazing. And Kelsey wanted to just give a brief introduction to what Opportunity at Work is and how perhaps what they might need from some local IT manager type folks.
Sorry, forgot about that, Kelsey. Go right at it.
No worries. Hi, everyone. Really great to be here today. And I'm excited for our conversation in a minute, so I won't hold you up too much, but I just wanted to make a quick introduction to Opportunity at Work. If you're not familiar with us, we are a national organization that is focused on a group of workers that we refer to as STARS, which is an acronym for Skilled Through Alternative Routes. Specifically, we're focused on workers that have at least a high school diploma or equivalent, but they haven't acquired a 4-year degree. But I think, as we all know, there are multiple ways that we acquire skills for our jobs, and a college degree doesn't have to be the only path. STARS make up 60% of the US workforce, and there are more job descriptions requiring college degrees than there are people with college degrees in the United States. So part of our work is helping change the narrative around skills-based hiring. And we have also developed a tool called StellarWorks, which Anila on the panel will talk a little bit about her experience with StellarWorks, but it's a platform we've designed specifically for STARS so that employers can find talent based on their skills, and STARS can find jobs based on their skills as well. So I will drop my information in the chat, but would love to chat more if any of you are thinking about hiring, if you're thinking about skills-based hiring and career transitions and all of that. But thanks so much for giving me a space to make a plug. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Kelsey. And you're getting a lot of love here from everybody, and they love your acronym. So yeah, thank you so much. All right, moving right along. So we are going to start with the panel introduction. And like I said, they only get a minute. So Michael, you get to go first. And then from there, you get to pick someone else.
All right, I'm great with timers. Yeah, start the clock. Yeah, thanks for joining everybody. I'm Michael. My full name is Michael Sierra. I work at Box as an IT systems administrator, particularly for all of our Atlassian related products that we have here. My path to working in IT, particularly at Box, was really, interesting and quite the shift. I was a bit aimless, when I was going to community college, working retail jobs as a produce clerk at a farmer's market and some other odds and ends. And long story short, I was introduced by a friend to the Stride Center, which was an NPO that kind of helps folks that wouldn't otherwise be introduced to the tech sector through, primarily focusing on getting CompTIA certifications, but also, and this was huge for my future success, was also teaching kind of soft skills, so interpersonal business communication, things like that. So eventually, through that same program, I got a mock interview at Box, and 8 months later, I got a real interview and started working in IT, and that was August 2016. And popcorn to Hanisha.
Thanks, Michael. So I guess I'm on the clock too. My name is Hanisha Hirani, and I'm a senior program manager working on the IT operations team at Box, supporting our internal employees. My journey so far has been both exhilarating and quite unconventional. I've had a total of 5 career shifts so far, and I'm sure there's going to be more. Initially, I thought through most of my teenage years that I was going to work for NASA. At university, I moved towards that goal by achieving a Bachelor of Science in Astrophysics with minors in mathematics and meteorology. Through that journey, I realized that I wanted to focus more on climate change and topics closer to home compared to otherworldly topics like black holes and gravitational lensing. It was there that I made my first pivot and achieved my master's in atmospheric science. But when all was said and done, I chose to leave grad school before achieving my PhD. Once back home, I did a brief career change into professional photography, which did not end up proving to be a viable or sustainable career option. Then 7.5 years ago, at the time of what was a pretty big risk for me, I decided to move across country for an offer at Box. I there began a support career supporting our internal boxers, and then eventually pivoted into my current discipline, which is program management. At Box, I've had the privilege to really grow my career and discover my passion for process improvement, cultivating teams, and mentoring my peers. And I will popcorn it over to Victor.
Thank you, Anisha. My name is Victor Peinado. I work with Robert Half, and I manage the enterprise applications ServiceNow development team. My path to IT, it started so crazily, just because I started pivoting even when I was going to a junior college. Didn't know what I wanted to go to. I was in computers and drama, pet science, of course, sports, and everything like that. Wanted to be a football player, so went to college because I didn't know any other route to take. But when I was in college and I was learning and going to the routes that I took while playing football and baseball, I figured out that I wanted to get a business science degree. Got that, and decided that I wanted to do a little bit more college and get a master's degree. So while doing that, I stepped into a computer sales and building opportunity that I worked for 2 years and graduated with my MBA and moved back to San Francisco. And when I moved back, I just decided that in the year 2000, the IT field was very easy to get into. So once I dove into there, I was in the help desk, and here lies everything that helped me get to the path that I'm on now. While at the help desk, I worked on ServiceNow, and we implemented ServiceNow. And from that, I grew a love with ServiceNow and kept with it, even though I was the help desk analyst, and I moved to a manager, help desk manager, build a couple of analytics teams and a transition team, but stayed with ServiceNow as my night job, and then moved into a developer and architect role. Thereby now I'm manager of that development team. And that's my my pivot that I've run, and it's been a fun and great ride. You know, all the different avenues that you can take. After that, I will popcorn it to anyone else. Glenn, is that back to you?
We'll go to Anila.
Hi, everyone. My name is Anila, and I am working at Accenture right now as a business analyst. My career pivot to tech was, I was, you know, out of high school, I was working retail jobs, and I did a program called Europe. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Europe. It's a, yeah. I'm looking at Glenn. So it's like a 6-month, 1-year-long program in short frame. The first 6 months are in class training, and then the second 6 months are in a internship. So I was assigned to Workday for my internship, and I was there for 6 months. And then, you know, just trying to get into corporate. I, like Christine mentioned, Kelsey mentioned, I reached out to StellarWorks actually, and they helped me get into, during that time actually, I was working at Robert Half as an asset coordinator, but I was working with StellarWorks, and they helped me get into Accenture, my current role, which I am at right now. So yeah, I'm kind of very new into the IT world, but yeah, I'm to the corporates, but this is my first, I would say, big girl job. So it's been great.
Awesome. Last but not least, but one of our favorites is Calvin.
Hey, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Calvin. I am an IT specialist, a support specialist at a company called Marqueta. My pathway into IT, much like everyone who spoke so far, was, you know, a windy road. I got a bachelor degree in sociology. However, while I was in college, started DJing and you know, traveling, and been able to make a little bit of a career out of that. And that dried up. You know, I started working in finance, totally not related to sociology at all. As time went on, I just, the last company I was at, I just wanted to make a career change. And this is something that's always been interesting to me, and interviewed and got the job. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, like I said, it's interesting. It's just a winding road. I never would have thought, you know, when I was in college, I was DJing, that I would be doing this right now. So yeah, that's it.
Thanks, Calvin. It's interesting. Everyone's career journey is very diverse. And I bet you everyone in this room right now has similar stories at career paths. And I just want just raise your hand or give a thumbs up or something like that, or just acknowledge in the chat. Just wondering, just a quick question in the whole group is, how many went to the junior college or community college route before going to a 4-year? I'm wondering, just raise your hands, or yeah, I'm one of them. Yeah, awesome. All right, so panel, thank you. I didn't really keep time. It was like, you know, when your parent, you know, you tell your parents, hey, I'm gonna, you know, go into water and see how long I can hold my breath. And parents go 1, 2, oh, you went like 2 minutes. You know, that's not true, but anyway. So thank you for keeping it short. Really appreciate it. And we'll get right into some of the questions I have for the panel. And I'm going to jump around, and I actually want to start with Calvin. And Calvin went from finance to IT, and that's a huge pivot. And I'm wondering, how was that journey for you going when you made that transition?
Yeah, that's a great question. On the one hand, the journey was easy. The soft skills that you learn as a financial planner, you know, the customer, quote unquote, customer service side of things, that transitions really well to a help desk role. On the other hand, it was difficult. You know, you're learning about technologies and how to essentially think like a machine, and just that very
Did we lose network or did I lose network?
Yeah, I lost it too.
which is
Hey, Calvin, if you could hear us, I think you lost your network.
can you hear me okay?
Slowly but surely. You sound like a bot.
Turn your video off. Maybe your
It's
audio.
coming
will.
back. Okay.
All right. Christine, did you make him into a bot? Is that what happened?
Is this better?
Yes, totally.
Okay, cool. Yeah, without video, of course. Yeah, the soft skills that you learn, doing customer service makes the transition pretty easy. But again, the hard part for me was, learning to think like a machine and learning the technical side of stuff and being able to apply that in a pressure setting. Whereas where you're speaking with a human being about their goals for their finances, humans don't think like machines, therefore we don't communicate in the same way a machine does. And it's making that transition was a bit difficult, but it was fun at the same time. I love a challenge, and that's ultimately, I think that's what's keeping me in this field, is that there's just always something to learn, and there's always something to tinker with, and so that challenge ultimately proved to be fun in the end.
And Calvin, you said you had a call center, right? Experience?
Yeah, from like years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a call center and customer service experience in the past, like one of my first jobs when I was going to a junior college, and I still find that those soft skills that you build in that arena helps out tremendously, especially when I went to the help desk. It just transferred over. Just that technology was the exciting piece added onto it.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, go ahead, Calvin.
I was just gonna say I couldn't agree more. When I was hired, it was explained to me that we can teach you the technical stuff, but the soft skills, that's harder to teach. Not that it can't be taught, but it's just harder to teach the older you are.
Yeah, soft skills.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest things. And I want to switch to Michael. We talked previously and his soft skills, and coming from, and I believe same something like Anila also, where you guys came from a retail experience, and soft skills, such a huge thing there, right? So how were you able to make that transition to have those soft skills into your role or your journey path through IT?
I couldn't agree more. I mean, they were massively beneficial. I think that, being at the Stride Center at the time, they helped me get at least something on my resume, to help me kind of, be able to be searched and, sift through the top to be recognizable. But apart from that, I mean, it was massively soft skills or, non-technical interpersonal skills. And I think that coming from retail, I was working directly before joining at Box. I was working a produce job at Sprouts. So it was something where, I think the hardest thing was trying to get my own mindset towards, hey, I do have, transferable skills that can, so sitting down and actually looking at, a job role that I wanted to get, maybe in IT for help desk support. I was looking at the roles and particularly the responsibilities, and I was able to kind of just really brainstorm and draw out translatable skills. So I can't agree more. I mean, just handling frustrated customers or coordinating, communicating within a team, pretty transferable and universal. So it was really around shaping the mindset and gearing it towards, hey, even though I don't view myself as being very technically savvy, I do have these other skills that, are just as important.
Yeah. Anila, you want to say?
Yeah, just kind of going off what that said. So yeah, I was in retail. I was a department manager at Macy's for a few years. So I think what helped me, like building relationships with others, connecting. So that was something that I was really good at. And I was always kind of told the same thing, like, yeah, like, we'll teach you the technical skills. And so that was easy for me. And just transitioning, having like my internship role, I was a customer success ambassador. So I was able to use everything that I had when I was reaching out to people, just giving them the best to what I had, and everything else I was just taught and I was able to learn.
Yeah, I think that's where IT is going towards, is more soft skills than anything else. I don't care what department you're in. I mean, even as a developer, you still need those soft skills to talk to your colleagues in IT. So Anisha, I have a question for you. With your such a smart person, what what made you I've seen your journey was amazing, and I was wondering your mindset through these journeys and these tough decisions you had to make. So can you tell us a little about that? And don't have to get too personal, but you can give us some generalizations. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's important to also be transparent about how some of these career pivots happen. I think for me, a lot of it was wrapped up in just not being aware of what was really out there. And I think a lot of that is because of how colleges and the whole high school experience really forces you to know exactly what you're going to major in by the time you start college, even though a lot of people may not know the answer to that yet. I was lucky in the sense that I was very interested in astronomy, and then I am very mathematically focused. So I kind of put that together with physics, and I was like, well, I'm going to go study astrophysics and go work for NASA. The intention was to be an astronaut originally, but I got glasses and a whole bunch of other things didn't quite line up with that track. But I think everything I've noticed in the pivots that I've needed had a lot to do with how I really felt about what I was doing. It took a long time to have that realization that it's okay that I tried something and it didn't actually work out. I think more often than not, there's a lot of pressure, especially on the current generation. A lot of people going through school right now, there's a lot of, you must know what your answer is, you must have that answer, and then you have to commit to it too. And I think each time I've had to make a change, probably the hardest one was to choose to drop out of my PhD program, because the amount of effort I had put into it at that point, a lot of it had to do with realizing that research meant working by myself, and it meant coding, and it meant a couple of things that didn't bring me joy in doing my job. And I wanted to work with people. And, ultimately that was one of the strong reasons for choosing to drop out of that program. And then I think, I tried things that I was interested in. I tried photography because I enjoyed it, but then, it's not actually a completely viable career path. And then, I just kind of went back to something that I was familiar with. I did have an IT gig in undergraduate that I was used to doing, and I at least knew those skills. And I was actually, going back to the question you asked prior, I was actually specifically hired at Box because of my customer service skills, not because of my technical skills, which I did find out after I was hired a couple of years later. And they did teach me everything from a technical level eventually that I needed to know. But that was a huge part of kind of understanding that, if you're not happy with where you're at, it is okay to change your mind. And I think nobody really told me that as a kid. So I'm trying to return that sentiment back out.
Anisha, I thought that Box hired you so you guys compete with with SpaceX to start building rockets with JPL. I thought that was the secret hire right there.
I'm going to remind you, Glenn, of your NDA, but all right, let's keep going.
Yeah. Oh yeah, sorry, forgot I signed that.
Sounds like an inroad there.
All right, next question for you for the panel here, and this is a simple question. Anyone could chime in. Victor, and anyone could chime in. Is currently, do any of you guys have mentors or coaches by chance? Do you guys want to speak a little about how that journey going well with you guys, with everyone? Who wants to go?
I can tell you right now that
right, go ahead.
I've never had a mentor, and it really hampered me, just because now that I'm later in my career, I'm a mentor for others, but just knowing that at that time when I was growing, going through college and getting to that next level, having a mentor just really just opened you up to other experiences that other people are having that you haven't experienced yet. And they can help guide you into the realms that you want to go into. So I think having a mentor is huge and big time. And even though I haven't had a mentor in the past, I see that having a mentor it helps out tremendously in whatever you want to do, career or anything like that. However, I do know that I don't call them mentors myself, but I talk to as many people as I can in the ServiceNow space because each one of those are small little mentors that can tell me things about the areas that they've experienced.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I can chime in real quickly. I'm probably under pressure because my mentor is in this room. But I had the privilege of reporting to Jason for coming up on 6 years now. So I think through that time, one of the things that's really stood out to me is the space that a mentor gives you to basically self-realize the things that they already see in you in such a way that they're not just telling you, oh, you're good at this, and like double down on this. Like you go through that journey to actually figure out what you're good at and unlock those things that you're kind of keeping dormant through those discussions, but in a very organic way that doesn't seem like it's forced or that you're intentionally being guided in that direction. And I think that's something that the mentor can do really well. And in particular, Jason does really well for me.
Yeah, and I think Hanisha kind of nailed it on the head, but yeah, let's dogpile on Jason. I definitely have seen him as a mentor. I mean, being completely nascent when I joined Box, I felt pretty wandering in my environment. I had things that and it wasn't a complete success story right off the bat. I think it's important to note that I struggled a lot with when I initially started working at Box. With sometimes it was attendance, sometimes it was different things that came up. But the biggest thing was that he really kind of was able to, as any other mentor that I've had, at least even just growing up in other non-related contexts, been able to give insight that they learn or have applied through going through hardships themselves or going through career paths themselves. So I mean, an analogy would be someone that's already gone through a maze and now has a top level view of it, being able to give you that insight and say, hey, this thing that you think you're worried about, in the grand scheme of things, it's not really something that you need to pay too much mind to. And even just, as anyone that's ever had any problems in life, professional or otherwise, it is incredibly validating and vitalizing and encouraging for someone just to say, what you're going through or what you're concerned about right now is something that they have seen others do. So just having that relatability and having that context that you might not have in a situation really is immensely helpful. And I've had that, even before Jason, as much as, I love working with him at Box with other people like Anisha. I would definitely list her as a mentor in a lot of other respects, even just, from the wisdom that I've gotten from her, especially when I was a much less senior and at the Stride Center with my course instructor, as well as, overall coordinator, job focused counselor. And those were Michael Miller and Annette Machado, who, really instilled a lot of confidence in me and a lot of skills that I otherwise wouldn't have known to hone in on and actualize.
Jason, I think you should get the Employee a Year award over at Box, since you're getting a lot of props out there. So if we could, and HDI could nominate you, we'll put a plug in there.
Like I said, I paid them all to say those things.
Well,
yeah, the check's in the mail.
Yeah.
There you go.
I thought it's direct deposit. Anyway, just kidding. Anyway, all right. So want to talk about a little about what sacrifices you guys made. Like, I know I've been through a lot for me, how many career changes I made to make a lot of sacrifices. And I want if anyone could jump in, I'll actually go to Calvin first. I rearranged my towel so I know who my panel is. So I kind of like figure out who's here now. So Calvin, and I'll just jump to the next person with the same question, because I'm kind of interested about, the challenge. I don't like saying sacrifice, the challenges we face when we make these transitions.
Yeah, that's another good question. I agree with you, Glenn. I would say challenge over sacrifice, because the way things have changed have actually been, in my opinion, beneficial. Prior to working in IT, I was always reading on my own, and I would take just community college classes just to learn about something totally unrelated, right? Just for the heck of it. And that's actually what prompted me into IT, was taking a programming class and realizing that I don't want to do that, but I do want to work with machines. To that point, one of the challenges, which has been a fun challenge, is just studying. This is at Marqueta, I actually have a little bit of time in my day, mostly, except for this week, to actually maybe knock out an hour of studying while I'm at the office still. But that's probably been, I guess I'm still kind of thinking of it as a sacrifice in terms of time, but it's been just a great help, just learning about various systems, certificates, studying for certificates. Anything that you can do to kind of help wrap your mind or broaden your mind about a particular topic or the world generally, I think is helpful. Other than that, I would say the biggest challenge I had was just getting my technical acumen up. That was improving upon that, and that's still it's a fun challenge, but it's ongoing. It just won't end, and that's kind of the beauty in it, is that's just a daily thing to just keep learning.
You said you hit it right on the head there, Calvin. I think that's awesome, because one thing that makes everything very enjoyable and fun is learning new things. So you're never done learning, and that's just the way of how things go, especially with IT blowing up.
Yeah, Anila, what about you? You coming from Europe? Yay for Europe! And making that transition.
Yeah. So like a challenge for me was, so I actually went to Sac State right out of high school, but I couldn't complete it because of like personal reasons. So, not having a college degree, and I was trying to work in corporate, was a little bit of challenging, but with programs like Europe, and also my parents are immigrants, so like obviously their dream is like for me to go to college and things. So for me, the challenging part was trying to, like I did a lot of like self-teaching for myself, just so that I'm like, okay, I'm doing Europe, but also like, for me to keep up with everything, how fast with everything that's moving. So those were the challenges that I had. And then also like when I was working or just trying to, I know like a lot of companies now, like at college, the degree is not like an option, but when it was, that was for me, I guess. Yeah, that was a challenging part.
And let me transition from there about degrees. And I'm going to speak to the panel about this one, where I was studying, marine biology. That's nowhere near IT, right? Yeah. And now here I am in IT, and I'm speaking on a panel. And with your degree, with everyone, especially Hanisha, the rocket scientist. I'm going to call you a rocket scientist from now on. How important is having a degree to get an IT job?
I guess I'll go first.
Oh, sorry, I'm gonna put you on the spot.
I think I hesitate, and I do come a pretty strange direction coming at this. I think the thing that my degree did help me do, which I think most people who have had the opportunity to go through any kind of certificate program or degree program, is really being able to understand, what it means to commit to something and follow through on something. It's more those soft skills that you get from actually saying, I'm going to go do this, and then follow through and commit to it. And all the experiences along the way of trying to figure out, making sure you're risk mitigating your own career path and make sure you're getting to that degree on time and passing your classes on time. I think for my degree specifically, I was able to take pretty much most of the analytical thinking that I gained from those degrees and really approach my IT career keeping that analytical mind in focus, but bringing the people aspect, which was missing from the actual degree itself. Being able to complement those two things together.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I can speak to that. To answer your question directly, Glenn, I'd say to me it doesn't seem related. But then from what Hanisha was saying, I do agree with that. It's interesting because I graduated when I graduated college, it was late. I was, touring and playing records and essentially getting paid to party. And you could have told me then, that I would have been doing this, I would have laughed in your face and be like, no, man, I'll be DJing until I'm 50, or at least involved in the scene in some sort of way, you know, promoting other artists or something like that. And it was a rude awakening when that kind of dried up. And I think in that instance, that's when it occurred to me that at least I do have, the degree makes me marketable in a sense. And I think particularly, you know, I'm from Detroit, Michigan, which is where all this was happening before I moved to California. And it's a different market there. And you probably, maybe these days it's changed, but back then you really did need something just to get into the corporate workforce. So I think, yeah, in that instance, it helped. But when my last company was hiring for IT people, that wasn't even in the job, like the prerequisites for the job. So, you know, I do agree that I think it helps to show that you can commit, that you can, you have follow through. I don't necessarily know if a degree is specifically the best way to show that or not. I guess it depends.
There's no right or wrong answer here. We're just working it all together and giving you guys an opportunity to speak about it. So my next challenge question is, what about certifications? Now, certifications is, I mean, you can get certifications anywhere right now. And I'm just wondering, I'm going to be honest, I spoke to some of the panels before. When I'm looking at a resume, if I'm hiring someone, I see certifications or, a 4-year degree. I'm like, that's nice. It's good to have. But, it's desktop support skills. It's, I'm looking for soft skills. I could teach tech, right? It's like me when I'm coaching volleyball. I can't teach height, but I'll teach that person volleyball, right? So certifications, what's your thoughts on certifications and how critical is it in a role in the IT world? Let me start with Michael. Actually, let me start with Victor, because I know Victor's got
I was going to say that
yeah,
that the degree definitely shows the commitment that someone put towards something, and right out of college you can show that you have something, instead of saying I worked at Pizza Hut for 3 years. So that definitely does help. When you start talking about certifications, like when I was in IT, I felt that it was very hard to get certifications, and the only thing I had on my resume was the my degrees. It was money came up. It was you had to get books and read the books, but that cost money. You didn't have that money. Internet was not as strong as it is now, and it really didn't have a lot of content. Now, like you were saying, there is certifications everywhere. So if I see, like, I've been hiring for the past 20 years, and whether it was like second level support folks or transition to operations or analytics folks, but now developers, certifications are huge. It's big. It tells me that this person has put a lot of time into this area, even though they might not have the experience. It tells me that this person put a lot of time into it. And you're right, the soft skills will come out in the interview when you start talking to somebody and you start figuring out what kind of soft skills they do have. But the certifications definitely tells me that you've spent a lot of time in this area, and that you're not just throwing a resume into this opportunity just to see if it sticks.
Anyone else want to speak on certifications? I could,
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'd say that, I mean, it definitely helped me a little bit. I mean, I would stress that, especially, I didn't even do it that long ago, but at the time, there were only paid certifications that were at least acknowledged, as widely as they are now for, CompTIA. But now if I were to do it over again, it definitely would be something where I would take advantage of the free type of courses that you can take, because really, again, I mean, when you're looking at the importance of it, I totally agree with what Victor was mentioning. It's all about kind of helping you rise to the surface in terms of all the different applicants for different roles, and it's really about staying with it. But yeah, I would say that given someone from background where they're from a 4-year degree and it was in computer science, as opposed to someone that went to community college, didn't get a degree, but has a certification, it's all an assumed risk. I mean, it could be that they have perfect technical skills, but end up not being a right fit for any given reason that's like non-technical. So it's really something where the difference is more so in how you carry yourself and how, you know, whether it's a good fit both ways in a role that you're interviewing for or trying out for an application. But I would wholeheartedly recommend at least getting some certification if available, especially with the free ones that are available, just to at least have something on there that removes the question, how familiar is this person with any kind of, you know, technical aspect?
All right, Michael, I think you hit it. Free. I like free. I think everyone likes free. So if it's free, take advantage of it and then put it on your LinkedIn or on your resume, on the other. All right. So next question to this panel is, I know I've seen a pattern for everyone in here where you went to at least 4 to 5 career changes. I know I've been through so many career changes, and I'm wondering where you are now and where do you plan, if you plan, or where do you want to strive to? What's your goal? Are you happy where you're at, or do you still want to move up or change careers as much as possible? I'm old. People don't think I'm old, but I am old, and I want to retire and just have a fishing boat and just charter fishing people, you know, out in the ocean. That'll be my thing, right? But for everyone here in the panel, how do you? It's almost like a interview question. Where do you see yourself in 5 years from now? It's almost one of those things like, oh my gosh, you know, but anyway, I don't want to get into that. So anyway, so how do you perceive your future? Is it still with IT, or do you want to make another pivot? I got the awkward silence panel just thinking, got their gears going in their head. So I will choose Anila.
I think for now, I am okay where I'm at, you know, but definitely maybe in a few years, I'm actually unsure, kind of.
No, and that's okay. Does anyone else want to chime in? Like, you know,
I didn't speak to that. I can say for sure I will change my career again within the next 15, 20 years. Just because there's so many things I'm interested in. Specifically, I would do physical therapy and you know, athletic training for, you know, older adults. But yeah, I mean, just to make the point that there's so many things I'm interested in that, you know, I've changed careers this many times already, and I just like learning. Like, why not do it again? You know? So, yeah.
I would change if NASA came calling to the moon. But no, I definitely don't think I have a career change coming in my next I say 5 years. There's a lot of learning that I have planned for myself, and you know, some certifications are on the books right now where I'm trying to get some now. It's just a fun time right now for me, in that I'm continually learning.
Yeah, like go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to mention that, I mean, I don't know if it'll be in the next 5 years, but I think one thing that I have always enjoyed about program management is how adaptable it is to different industries. So why I'm not sure if I will always be in IT, I think that at least that's something where I could continue to take my skills with me and move into other industries, or at some point, if I wanted to pursue leadership. There's a lot of skills that I've been able to build up during my time as being a program manager. So I think that's important to keep in mind too, is like how you can continue to bring, even if you do career pivots, how you can continue to bring the skills that you earn in each role that you've had to your next one, because there's probably something you can bring forward too.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing, I guess off the top of my head, I don't see, you know, a huge change happening, but obviously, you know, am I going to be doing this for the rest of my life? You know, it's uncertain. But at the same time, I think that one thing that I've always tried to pay attention to, especially, you know, as I've had more time you know, in a professional role as opposed to retail, is kind of paying attention to like comfort, and not in the traditional sense like, oh, this chair is nice, but more so just, am I, you know, emotionally happy, or do I feel fulfilled with what I'm doing? You know, and that can be applied to a lot of different things. Like, you know, do I feel confident in, you know, what I'm studying at, you know, at the time at community college? And that was, you know, studying to be a dietitian, and I got kind of estranged from it. I felt like I wasn't, you know, comfortable with where I was going with that. And the same thing with, you know, working as a produce clerk. I wasn't as comfortable doing that, you know, working 4 a.m. to like 1 or 2 p.m. Every day. It was something where, you know, hey, wait, I want to be fulfilled by my work. I want, you know, this time that I'm spending every day, you know, for 5 days a week to mean something. So I think that, you know, to a much lesser extent now, I still have so much that I'm learning in my current path, and so much, you know, that I'm able to give back as well to even just my team, who, you know, I absolutely consider family. So yeah, I'd say probably not in the near future, but who knows?
So with IT changing, and everyone here is in the IT world, with it's changing so fast, and I got some commonalities out of this where everyone is learning. You're almost learning almost every day. How do you keep up in your role with technology? You know, technology used to move like, oh, every 10 years there's a new product, but now it's almost every other year or every year, and I can't keep up myself. It's mind-boggling. So in your role, how do you, and for learning, how do you learn all these new technologies when they just come around the corner so fast?
I can just mention that for myself, at least, while I may not be doing like IT specific, like technical work, I do keep up with technical blogs. So I am at least keeping up and keeping aware of what sort of technologies are coming out there. I'm watching various like conferences and making sure I'm keeping an eye on just generally what's going on, more so for my own awareness, but it does usually have downstream impacts on my work, especially, you know, with things like, you know, security vulnerabilities and a lot of like breaches that are happening across different companies. That's been a huge focus for all companies, is figuring out how do we not be the next headline. And so like a lot of, you know, security programs, initiatives come through my like desk, and like how do we make sure that we're securing the company and protecting the company. And so I think it's good to be aware of that kind of news, and maybe not necessarily knowing the technology technically, but at least being aware of what's happening out there.
Yes, I can agree with that. You know, I think blogs is a great place to keep up with things. I've used there's channels for like YouTube channels that have things that you're interested in. Go to a conference. In fact, I just went to the ServiceNow conference, and there's a lot of insights that you know, help me build on my career, or you know, my skill sets. There's also, I mean, you mentioned this earlier, is there's so many training platforms out there, you know, LinkedIn, Udemy, Coursera, Pluralsoft, EDX, all those. I subscribe to all those, and once in a while, you'll get something like a free training for this and a free training for that. And you take advantage of some of that stuff as well.
Cool. Who's Christine? How are we on the chat, or is that Sally?
I'm Christine, and we're doing great in the chat.
Okay.
Yeah, we are getting a couple shout outs for different certifications that are helpful. So maybe that can lead into a good question for the panel. What certifications do you think are helpful? Maybe which ones do you think are not helpful?
Yeah, that's a good question. What do you think, panel?
I can answer that. I generally don't think that there's anything that's not helpful, and it may sound weird, but I agree with Victor's mindset here that it just shows a commitment to learning, which to me that's key. So I don't know if there's anything that's not necessarily helpful, because even if you have a certificate and a technology that we don't use, if I look at your resume, I'm happy to see that you at least committed to learning something. So
Yeah, definitely. And just one small thought that I had was also just community in general. I mean, even just your coworkers or getting engaged with any community forums or meetups specific to different fields. Maybe not even just the one that you're in right now, but if you're interested in something. I know things are just getting broaching, being more open and able to attend in person. But even virtual events like that, not unlike this one. Just getting brushing elbows, or in this case, virtual elbows. And hearing from other folks that may have gone through the same thing, or have more wisdom that they could end up sharing.
Yeah, one thing I throw out there is that I know Google has some free certifications that were out there. Microsoft has some free certifications out there that they were just putting out there. Right now, ServiceNow has a certified system administrator that usually costs about $1,400 for the course, and then another $400 for the test certification. So that's free right now until August. So there's a lot of free certifications out there that can help you with whatever passion you have. So I think certifications can help you in that realm, where if you have a passion to get somewhere, it could be the inroad that you would want or that you need.
I like Larry's comment. Anytime the company pays, that's good enough.
Oh well, yeah, that's my top choice. Come on,
right?
Top choice. Find a company that will pay, that can pay, and make them pay.
Yes. Yeah. I want to talk about networking here, and you guys have a lot about networking. How important to you, if I could speak correctly, where it helps your career grow?
Networking is huge. Just having people in different areas, say in IT or different business units, that just having a conversation with somebody, when you're on vacation or when you're somewhere, that might turn into something, because you don't know, if you guys start kicking it off and start having a good time, you guys connect, and next thing you know, you're networking with that person and you're looking for an opportunity. You happen to be talking to that person, and they're like, yeah, I got that opportunity right here, and it's with my company. I'm not the hiring manager, but I'll put a good word in for you, and things like that. So I think networking is big on my list, to make sure that you're making those connections.
I think the interesting thing about networking for me is I had a chance to, although I'm not part of HDI maybe yet, I am part of PMI, so the Program Management Institute, and I did have a chance to attend their conference in 2019. And I think one thing that really stood out to me when I attended that conference was perspective. So even if I wasn't able to actively take advantage of like networking, because the perspectives were very different, it took place in Philly, so there was a lot more representation from like non-tech companies. And so I think that was an interesting parallel of seeing how program management was different amongst the technical companies, and like those who were kind of existing in this bubble versus those that were executing more in like traditional environments like finance, etc. I think that parallel was interesting, in understanding the perspective of how that looked different from their eyes, and their challenges were very different than the ones that I was experiencing. And so I think that part of networking was really interesting to me to understand.
All right.
Yeah,
So,
and sorry, go ahead.
No.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, I will go ahead. Thank you. Yeah, I'd say that networking was, just a small tidbit through the mock interview that I had orchestrated through Stride Center, but other folks were there too, not associated with Stride. The first people that I sat down with wound up being two of the IT system administrators at the time, and the next table I sat down with, I sat down with someone that's still at Box, and at the time he was the IT operations senior director. So all that to say, it's really about just taking every avenue that you can to just improve your likelihood of getting into a field, or even just figuring out if you don't want to be in that field. But I always like the quote, luck is where preparation meets opportunity. And it really is about, getting as much of a spread as you can to at least know about those opportunities or be exposed to them in some way.
Great. I want to respect everyone's time here. I know we're coming close to that time. And if anyone has questions for the panel, or is there any questions in there, Christine, by chance?
Yeah, actually, one interesting one. How do you protect your privacy while trying to network?
Oh, that's a good question.
I'm interested in hearing about that too, because
I actually
still get
have
spam
this
emails.
is top of I have a chat box with a thread with my girlfriends, and I would love to talk about this today. Well, women today can all attest to this, even on LinkedIn. Like, you're networking on LinkedIn, but there's just people that will always slide on your DMs and approach you for something more than a interview or resume review. So frankly, just speaking as a woman, it's about, I personally like to keep it professional. If I feel like there's anything that I say it right up front, like, hey, I do hiring, and if you want to talk and meet about that, that's cool. Otherwise, I dead them and I move on. But today more than ever, I think being safe and creating an environment where women can further careers, network safely, and also not have to fear figuring out like some person is going to get all their information and show up at their front door tomorrow. So that's something that my husband and I actually talk about on the like often, because there has been situations where I don't feel comfortable anymore, and so we have to have a strategy as to how are we going to approach this, how are we going to keep me safe, and how are we going to keep our family safe.
Yeah, so for UC Berkeley, I'm just going to jump in here, where when we get our, when HR does their screening, and when we get the candidates, they're just a number, and that's all we get. And we don't get any other of their personal information, and we just get their skills, which is really nice to have. So we just don't know if it's a male or female. We just know this is this number, and we're just going to interview this person based on that resume and their cover letter. So I think a lot of companies are realizing safety for anyone, especially when we have our personal information out there when we're applying for a job. And I give kudos for UC Berkeley for thinking like that when we do the hiring. And then when we pick our panel, when we pick the person, we talk to HR, and HR takes care of it from there. And they send out, here are the interview times and stuff like that. So we don't get to see the client, the candidate until the day we have that interview. So kudos for UC Berkeley for doing that. So hopefully some companies will go on the right step and take that measure, because that is a big safety concern. Anyone else want to speak on behalf of that? Oh, we're at time. So we're at 12:55. So panel, thank you so much. I really appreciate the time for you guys taking the time and giving your journey. Amazing journey. Everyone's here's journey is, very diverse and have similar stories, but we all have our own story we have to tell. And these are great stories that everyone was on the panel. Thank you so much for being here. Terry, back to you.
Well, thanks, Glenn, and great job to everybody. Again, thanks for being on the panel, sharing your pivots. Glenn, thanks for the prep time. Everybody, just to give some kudos, this group, including Glenn, they spent a couple hours over the last week getting ready for this event. So it showed. This was awesome. And now you all know, speaking of networking, you all know a few more people, and hopefully you will find coming back and participating with us, we'll continue on that journey. Any board members want to add anything before we close?
No, I just want to say thank you. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Hanisha.
Sorry, I was just going to mention there's one thing I did forget to touch up on, and just want to share anecdotally. I think around the mindset of thinking about when you're approaching a pivot, I think one thing to keep in mind is just your own mentality of understanding that sometimes it means starting from the ground up again. And I think that's a very difficult thing sometimes to reconcile. Is like, oh, I might have to start again from scratch, and what that means in terms of building your knowledge back up again, especially if you like being prepared and knowing what you're doing.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, that step back to step forward is a tough one. I can relate. After going to college for 6 years, the job I thought I would have, it just disappeared basically before I got out of college. So had a few, that was a backwards and a sideways, and always learning, as Victor said. Victor, you wanted to say something?
No, I just want to thank everyone for the fantastic conversation.
Great. So you all are on our mailing list, and we hope to have something social going on in the summer, getting together for some drinks, and looking like perhaps on the peninsula is looking good, and hopefully maybe up in the Oakland area, Christine and Calvin, that we can do something up that way too. But either way, have a great summer, holidays, enjoy the weather, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks to all the panelists.
Likewise.
Great
Thanks,
job.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Glenn.
Take care.
Thank you.
Wish we
Take
had
care,
more time.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.